I took a job watching security cameras in a forest. I shouldn't have looked at screen 6. I never imagined I'd end up with a job that paid me to do absolutely nothing. And I don't mean pretend to work nothing, I mean actual, literal nothing. Just sit in a cabin all night, watch a few forest cameras, write down if a bear wanders by. Easy. Too easy, really. It almost sounded like a scam. The job listing was vague, barely 2 paragraphs. It described the position as overnight ecological surveillance monitoring at a biological observation site in Northern Oregon. No company name, no HR paperwork. Just a generic contact email, GPS coordinates, and an hourly rate that made me look twice. I was broke and desperate. I figured, what the hell? I didn't even get a real interview. A guy named Curtis met me at the site, somewhere off a backwoods service road, deep in the forest where cell signal vanished and the trees grew so dense they looked like walls. He looked rough. Gaunt, pale. Like he hadn't slept right in weeks. Maybe months. His uniform was clean, but his eyes were jittery, unfocused. He didn't shake my hand. "You're the new overnight, yeah?" he asked, voice hoarse like he'd been chain-smoking through a panic attack. "Yeah." "Names," I started to introduce myself, but he waved it off like it didn't matter. He walked me into the main cabin, a squat, prefab structure built on concrete slabs, nestled between moss-covered pines. Inside was one large room, a bunk, a kitchenette, and a wall of monitors fed by cameras deep in the woods. 32 in total, each one labeled, each one linked to motion and thermal sensors. Curtis ran me through the basics: log any animal activity, record strange noises, flag camera glitches, don't leave the cabin, don't touch the generator, don't ask about the other buildings, plural, but I hadn't even noticed tucked between the trees. Then he pointed to the monitor bank and said something weird. "You see that one?" he said, indicating the screen labeled CAM6. "Yeah." "Listen carefully," he said, his tone dropping low. "From 3 to 3:18 a.m., do not watch screen 6. Don't touch the controls. Don't even glance at it." I snorted. "What happens if I do?" Curtis didn't answer right away. Just stared at me like he was trying to decide if I was worth saving. The silence dragged out until I started to feel uncomfortable. Then he said, flat and emotionless, "That's above your pay grade. Just don't look." And with that, he handed me a keycard, gave me a set of handwritten instructions, and left without another word. Drove off down the trail and disappeared into the trees. I chalked it up to weird forest people behavior. Probably some kind of hazing, or maybe it was a running joke between contractors. Screen 6. Don't look. Boo. Whatever. I needed the paycheck. My barista job had dried up, rent was past due, and I wasn't about to screw up what was basically being paid to babysit trees. That first night? Uneventful. Nothing weird. I made coffee, flipped through the instruction manual, and watched a few deer poke around camera 14. A raccoon wrestled with something shiny on camera 2. A windstorm made camera 27 flicker a little, but it came back after a second. I noted the timestamp like I was supposed to. As for screen 6? I didn't touch it. Not even out of curiosity. Just let the empty forest play on like nothing was wrong. But by the second night, I started to wonder. The cabin was silent. Not a sound outside but wind and the occasional rustle of pine needles. Inside, just the low electric hum of the monitors and the ticking of the wall clock. At 2:57 a.m., my eyes kept drifting to that monitor. By 2:59, I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. At exactly 3 a.m., I swore the light in the room dimmed slightly. The air shifted. Just a little. Like someone had opened a freezer in the next room. I stared at screen 6. Still blank. Still untouched. I told myself I'd just peek. Just a second. Just to prove it was nothing. At 3:02 a.m., I tapped the key. Screen 6 came to life. And, at first, it looked normal. Another patch of forest. Misty. Quiet. Same as the rest. A narrow clearing, some tall pines, a hint of movement in the underbrush. Static flared across the screen for half a second, then cleared. That's when I noticed it. There was something standing just at the edge of the frame. Tall. Still. Too thin. It didn't move like a person. Didn't fidget or shift weight. It just stood there, angled slightly toward the camera. I leaned forward, squinting. No face. No features. Just a blank, gray oval where a head should be. The longer I stared, the more I realized it was looking at me. I blinked. It was closer. Still not moving. But somehow, it had closed the distance. I blinked again. Closer. I backed away from the monitor. My skin went cold. Every hair on my arm stood straight up. Then, every camera feed cut out. All at once. 32 black screens. Except screen 6. On that one, the thing was right up against the lens. Face or whatever it had pressed so close the image began to distort. Not with static. With something else. The screen pulsed slightly, like it was breathing. And then, it smiled. I didn't sleep that night. The feed returned at 3:19 a.m. Like nothing had happened. I haven't seen Curtis since. I don't know how to quit. I don't know if I'm allowed to quit. But I do know one thing. Tomorrow is night 3. And I'm not sure I can stop myself from looking again. Screen 6 showed the same forest clearing as always, dead still, fog curling low across the mossy ground. But something was different tonight. It was snowing. Thick, heavy flakes drifted down in silence, but they weren't falling. They were rising, lifting off the ground like ash in reverse, as if the earth were quietly exhaling them back into the sky. I blinked. Sat forward. Rubbed my eyes. The other cameras? Dry. Damp forest floor, some wind-tossed branches, but not a single flake anywhere else. Only screen 6. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just some weird weather anomaly. This wasn't weather at all. Then, without warning, a sharp pop exploded in my earpiece, loud enough to make me yank it out. Static shrieked through the cabin, louder than it had any right to be. I flinched as every single screen blinked to black, plunging the room into a dull, humming darkness. I couldn't see. Couldn't hear anything but the hiss of white noise. But I felt something. Like pressure. Like the air was being pulled inward. And beneath the floorboards, a vibration. Deep and heavy. Not like an engine. More like footsteps. Something vast. Moving slowly. Underground. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. Could have been seconds. Could have been minutes. Then, just as suddenly, the screens flickered back on. All of them. Except screen 6, which had never really gone dark. It was just waiting. And when it came back into focus, something new was there. A figure. It stood in the middle of the clearing. Perfectly still. Perfectly wrong. Not a man. Not an animal. Just this pale, naked shape, like someone had tried to sculpt a human from wet clay, then left it out in the rain. Its limbs were uneven. Too long on one side. Its head tilted, heavy and featureless, like it had never evolved a face at all. And it was staring directly at the camera. Not moving. Not blinking. Just aware. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I think my brain refused to process what I was looking at. I forced my hands to type something in the logbook, just muscle memory at that point. I wrote. Equipment glitch. Reset successful. Then I turned screen 6 off. Didn't watch the rest of the night. Didn't sleep. Didn't blink. But the next night? I didn't have to look at screen 6 to know it was there. Because it started showing up on the other cameras too. Not walking. Not wandering. Just appearing. Camera 4. Then 13. Then 29. Miles apart. Simultaneously. Always the same time. 3:02 a.m. Always just standing. Always staring. Night 4, I lost my nerve. I didn't even bother with the monitors after 2:30 a.m. Just sat there in the dark, lights off, hands clenched in my lap, eyes locked on the red LED display of the wall clock. Watching it tick closer to that cursed window. 3 a.m. 3:02. 3:07. I didn't move. Didn't breathe too loudly. Just counted the seconds and told myself, if I don't look, I'll be fine. But at 3:11, something strange happened. The power didn't go out. The lights stayed on. The monitors hummed. No static burst in my earpiece. No pressure drop. No underground vibration. Just silence. I told myself that was good. A win. Maybe whatever this thing was, it had given up. Maybe ignoring it really worked. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw motion. Screen 2 flickered. I turned before I could stop myself. And there it was. The figure. That pale, sagging thing. Standing still in the beam of camera 2's infrared lens. Head tilted. Arms slightly too long. Fingers that didn't quite end right. And then, on screen 7, the exact same figure, same posture, same angle, standing in an entirely different section of the forest. A different camera. A different location. But perfectly mirrored. It wasn't moving. But it was spreading. My heart started pounding in my throat. My legs moved before I made a decision. I grabbed my bag, my keycard, and turned for the cabin door. That's when I saw it. The cables. Every single monitor cable previously snaking across the desk into the wall conduit was gone. Not unplugged. Cut. Clean. Precise. As if done with a single motion. A blade. Or something sharper. The cords dangled, lifeless. And yet, the screens were still on. That's when it hit me. Something had been inside. Something had come into the cabin, into the room with me, and I hadn't seen it. Hadn't heard it. Or maybe I had, and just hadn't realized. Then, from behind me. Crunch. A soft, deliberate sound. Like weight on fresh snow. Then again. Crunch. Closer now. Just behind my shoulder. I didn't run. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I couldn't move. Couldn't scream. Couldn't even blink. I was frozen. Not with fear, exactly. With recognition. Like I had become part of the system. A still frame. A new feed. Like it had reached through the monitors and pulled me in. Like I was part of the network now. Just another camera in the dark. Night 5, I made a decision I regret with every cell in my body. I told myself it was for closure. That I needed answers. That I'd only watch for a second. But that's a lie. I think part of me wanted to see it again. To know it was real. To prove I hadn't just imagined everything. So I watched. I sat down at 2:59 a.m., turned every monitor off except screen 6, and waited. At 3 a.m. exactly, the feed flickered to life. No static this time. No noise. No fanfare. Just that same clearing, calm, quiet, moonlit. Mist still curling low along the ground like breath in winter. For a moment, I thought maybe this would be the night nothing happened. The night the curse broke. I leaned in. And then I saw it. The ground was moving. Slow at first. Just a subtle shift, like wind passing beneath the forest floor. Then a pulse. A rise. A fall. The dirt was breathing. It expanded and contracted, rhythmically, like the earth had lungs. Like the forest clearing was alive. And dreaming. The snow started again, but wrong. It floated upward. In heavy, shivering spirals. Not flakes anymore, but ash. And in that ash, I began to see movement. Fingers. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Thin, pale hands clawed their way from beneath the soil, twitching, grasping at the air, desperate. The kind of fingers that hadn't felt sun or skin in centuries. Some bent the wrong way. Some ended in points. They writhed like worms, reaching, pulling. Trying to climb out of something too deep to imagine. And then the clearing ripped open. No explosion. No crack. Reality just split. Like paper under a razor. Right in the center of the frame, the earth tore into a black, jagged hole, an impossible depth smeared with shadows and flickering movement. And inside that hole, I saw my apartment. My couch. My TV glowing faintly in the dark. And me asleep on it. Blanket half kicked off. Remote still in my hand. I watched myself breathe. Shift. Murmur something in my sleep. And then, in the corner of the screen, standing behind the couch. The figure. The clay thing. The watcher. Tall and crooked and still. It was in my home. Watching me sleep. Waiting. A nausea hit me that no drug, no illness, no fear had ever triggered before. It felt like my stomach fell sideways. Like gravity forgot how to work. I reached for the power switch, ready to shut everything down, but something made me stop. I don't know why. Maybe I thought if I moved, it would know. Then, from the reflection on the monitor screen, I saw it. Just for a fraction of a second. Behind me. Standing in the room. Not on the camera. Not in the feed. Behind me. No breath. No footsteps. Just presence thick and cold and ancient. A weight in the air that bent reality around it. I spun around, heart in my throat. Nothing. But the screen? The screen was still showing my apartment. Still showing me, sleeping. Still showing it. Now closer. I never went back. Didn't quit. Didn't call. Just left everything behind, my gear, my logbook, the keycard still dangling from the hook by the door. I didn't pack. I didn't think. I just left. Like something in my brain flipped and said, run. Now. Or never. That was 4 days ago. This morning, I found something waiting for me. A plain manila envelope, slid under my apartment door sometime during the night. No name. No return address. Just a smudge of something dark on the flap, oil, maybe. Or ash. Inside was a single item. A flash drive. No markings. Just black plastic. Cold to the touch, even after I'd been holding it for a while. Like it had come from somewhere that heat didn't reach. Against every instinct screaming at me, I plugged it in. There was only one file. 03_00_2_03_18.mp4. Exactly 18 minutes long. Time stamped. The same cursed window Curtis warned me about 3 to 3:18 a.m. It was footage from the security office. From last night. From inside the cabin I abandoned. And in the footage, I'm sitting there. At the desk. Calm. Composed. Just watching screen 6. Smiling. Not the nervous half-smile I'd worn the first few nights. This was different. Empty. Tranquil. Like whatever was inside me had been scooped out and replaced with silence. Then, at exactly 3:09, something shifts. I stop smiling. And slowly, so slowly, I turn my head. Not toward the monitor. Toward the camera. Toward you. The viewer. Like I know you're watching. My eyes find the lens with mechanical precision, and then I lean forward. Close. Too close. I say something. But there's no audio. Just static. I ripped the footage onto my laptop. Ran it through every filter I could find. Boosted the gain. Cleared the noise. Slowed it frame by frame. Eventually, I got the sound. Just one sentence. A whisper. My voice. But not my voice. Something underneath it. Like a second mouth speaking through my throat. And what it said. Still echoing in my skull. Don't look behind you.